Twitter, looking at the challenges that we go through, looking at the things that our mentality give us the ability to do, looking at how focus, knowledge, and discipline can work for you. So what is focus? Let's go ahead and check that out today. Let's go ahead and do some education here. It's the ability to see clearly. It's the ability to see the challenges that we have, the things that we're working through. Dictionary.com definition of focus here. Before we continue, I just want to talk about some motivation, some meditation, and inspiration. If it's not one of three, I don't want it. So a central point as of attraction, attention, or activity. So in other words, it's what you actually put your mind onto. It's what you put your mind into. It's the type of stuff that you're looking to centrally focus on, and that's that point. And so when you're having challenges like focusing at a distance, my eyes have the trouble focusing on a distant object. Student must focus in the classroom to concentrate. Where are you putting your level of concentration? What is it that you're putting yourself into? And so where is it that you put your time? When do you apply your ability to use what you have? You know, these are the types of things that come up when we talk about focus. So that's really what it is. It's that not a lot of people put their energy and their effort into the ability to use what they already have inside of themselves. And so it's a pretty interesting thing, the definition of focus here. And you know, it's like when people think that they're able to just ignore the things, that the challenges that they have, it's not about ignoring them. It's not about being selfish. It's about being yourself. It's about looking at the ways to overcome the challenges that you truly go through. And each of us are going to have challenges. Each of us are going to have things that we're going to have to work through. And it's going to be inside of ourselves that the biggest challenge to find that level of focus lays. It's inside of ourselves that each day that we ask ourselves the questions that, you know, nobody else will really ask for you. And it's inside of that place that we start to see that when we put it to a point, the mastery of focus, realm ability effectively raises the level by its listed amount for all those who focus to that level. We reach that level where it bypasses the challenge, where it gives us the ability to get to the place where the struggle doesn't have ability to stop you, where the ability inside of yourself goes past your challenges. And one of those things that is really interesting is that when you're focused, your attention is in the right place. Your attention, your mentality, your ability to work through your challenges, you start to overcome. And a lot of us are not willing to do that. We don't give ourselves that place to where we're utilizing what we have inside. We're not giving ourselves that ability to work through those kinds of challenges. We don't put ourselves in that place to where we give ourselves that kind of permission. And so a lot of us don't sit inside of our mentality because we disable ourselves. We disable our ability to work through our own challenges. And is it inside of you that you have to overcome it for yourself. It's inside of when you're focusing to the point where the mentality starts to show the reflection. It's when the ability inside of yourself truly starts to come out. And each of us are going to find those kinds of challenges to where we're going to be tested to see if it's what we truly want. And it's going to be inside of the internal test that the ability for us to start to focus through our challenges starts to come out. It's not when everything is working for you. It's not when everything is easy. It's when you truly have to put your attention towards something. It's when, what you're focusing on truly starts to come from within you, and when it starts to radiate outwards. And so, are we putting ourselves in that place where we give ourselves that ability, or are we stopping who we are inside? A lot of us stop ourselves before we even reach it. We stop ourselves before we even think it's possible, Anyways, it's pretty awesome to have challenges. It's pretty awesome to have things that we can work through. It's an awesome thing that we have these kinds of challenges, because in this world that we live in, if you don't focus, then you can't achieve anything. If you don't put yourself in a place where you sit down and work on something, the ability for you to truly have stuff to work through doesn't come to you. And so, it really, there is no such thing as a perfect world. There's only a world where your mind starts to pull from the things that you give attention to. Like, at what level do we give ourselves attention? At what level do we sit down with ourselves and start to grind with the energy inside of ourselves? Do we allow ourselves the ability to use the mind as the eye? Like, a lot of people like to say the mind's eye, but what about the rest of your brain? What about your left and your right? What about your ability to see beyond your challenges? What about that part of you? What about when other people are not on your side and you're having to pull through at that point? Where does the mentality come in on that? How do you utilize your mentality to get to that level, to bypass your own challenges, right? So, like, what happens when, you fail at things and you fall flat on your face is you find a way to get back up. And so if we're not focusing, if we're not getting our attention into the place where we're utilizing what we have, then how can we put ourselves in a place where we can do anything well? How can we put ourselves in a place where the challenges that we have, we start to work through? The mentality starts to become a reflection. The ability inside of oneself starts to radiate light outwards. And so that is where the focus lays, and it lays inside of the tools that you use, the things that you use that other people just will not. And it's to see across the face of the planet at that level that a lot of these people who have achieved high levels of success have done. We see owners of companies who have gotten to that place where they use what they have. We've seen these people who are just continuing to grind when other people would just give up. We look across the sports industry and we see these people who started with practically nothing, right? And so this tells me that if they could do this, then also we could too. Then also you could too. And it's not when other people are succeeding that you succeed. It's when you sit down with yourself and you truly sit down in that level of focus is when your ability inside of yourself starts to come out. And I've seen myself crash to the ground so many times trying to find that way. I've seen things fail to just begin to start. And so, are we seeing them as failures or are we seeing them as successes? And what is a success? What is a success but a level of mentality? What is a success, and how do you start to gauge it? How do you start to give yourself the ability to focus through your challenges? Each of us are going to have that place inside where we're focusing to that level where the mentality starts to come out. And we see these people that have put their attention into something so well that it becomes almost a part of them. We've seen surfers, we've seen people across the face of the planet who continue to grind when other people would just give up. And it's inside of that place that we go. It's inside of that place where we see that we can achieve that. And it's only once you start to sit down with yourself and you start to find the simplicity in the things, and you start to give yourself the ability to want it so bad that it becomes a part of you, that you start to utilize it. And it's great when you see very few people following you. It's really great when you see like 5 people online, and you look back later and you have over 150 people or more. It's inside of that mentality that we find ourselves. It's inside of that mentality that we believe in our abilities. Is when we're doing stuff and we're giving it away, and other people are starting to become a reflection of it. They're starting to use those kind of gifts and tools that you've used for yourself. It's when you truly give it away, when you truly put yourself in a place where the mentality starts to radiate outwards, that you start to see the blessings coming from within it. And each of us has that ability. Each of us has that place. Also, during this time, I really enjoy to do energy readings. I really enjoy to read the energy that flows inside, and to start to help other people out. Can we use our gifts, our abilities inside of ourselves to help out other people to understand themselves? Can we use the simplicity of the things that we work with and the things that we work through to get to the place where we want to be in life, right? And each day we're going to be struggling with that. Each day it's not going to happen exactly as you want it. It's going to take its own patience. It's going to take its own place of ability. It's going to take its own understanding. It's going to take the ability to sit down with yourself and to put yourself into a mindset where you have that ability, where what you're utilizing is no longer crushing you, where your challenges no longer stop you, where the person inside of you gets to the place where the reflection radiates outwards from within. And so, are we giving ourselves that ability? Are we putting ourselves on that page? And each day that we give ourselves that, I look on my YouTube, and it was interesting. I saw 3 people actually in there. I saw 3 people, like, that's amazing to me. Like, I'm grateful for the little bits. I hope that those people that watch this videos and watch me across multiple networks, that will subscribe to my channel, that they'll actually put themselves in a place where they ask themselves the questions about what I'm talking about. Like, what kind of challenges do you go through every day that stop you from having this kind of time for yourself, right? So, everybody says that they want to do it. Yeah, I want to start this channel. Do they sit in front of the screen every single day when they have no one talking, or they have multiple people communicating? Do they sit inside of their mind? Do they give themselves the place to be in their element? We each have our element. We each have our place. We have our place of mentality. And so, are you in your element? Are you in your ability to be who you are? Are you able to, continue to progress in your mentality? Are you able to bypass the challenges that you have? Here I am grinding, And I'm speaking, and I would enjoy people who would join in. I would enjoy people who would want to become a part of a community, who want to elevate their mentality, who want to get to the place where their level of focus has the ability inside of itself to radiate light outwards. And so, we all are sons and daughters of the Most High God, and it's when we start to recognize that, it's when we start to utilize it, it's when we start to get down with the challenges that we face off against, and we truly start to get into them. And each of us are going to have challenges. Each of us are going to have things that are going to be working against us. So ask yourself how you can start to turn it towards your favor. How can you start to turn it towards your ability? Can you start to exercise your mind? Can you put yourself on a diet where you're no longer hungry, where you're no longer starving, where your ability to perform at your maximum level comes from within you, where you're in control of your challenges, you're in control of your mentality, right? So where do we go to get that kind of training? Does your teachers teach you that, or do you learn that from yourself? Ask yourself that question. Ask yourself about your self-study. Ask yourself about your self-being. Like in school, there was classes. It was called organization class, the ability to study skills, right? So are we able to use our study skills? Are we able to use, what those teachers taught us in school? Are we able to put them down on paper? Are we able to study our own life? Or do we neglect ourselves, right? So in school, we feel like, we have the school and then we go to work. When do we sit down with ourselves and study ourselves and then we go to work, right? So, a lot of us forget about that time. We forget about that place where that ability has its purpose, and then afterwards we think back to ourselves, why didn't we give ourselves that kind of time? So it's inside of our own level of self-study, it's inside of our being that we start to achieve it. And each of us has that right. Each of us has that ability to start to put yourself first, no matter how hard your day is, to give yourself the place to find the time for yourself in your day. And there are people who seek out that from other people because it's hard for us to build it for ourselves. It's hard for us to sit at a point where the tools inside start working, where the abilities inside of ourselves start to have the ability to go beyond the challenges. And each day that we do that for ourselves, we sit down inside and we manifest it into the being. We manifest it into the challenges. We manifest it into the pains that we feel, the emotions, the places inside of ourselves, and we forget that we can do it for ourselves. And it's when we start to do that, it's when we start to give ourselves that place inside of who we are, that we overcome those kinds of challenges. Each of us is going to have challenge. Each of us is going to have things that, only we can work through. And it takes that ability to get to that place for us to be willing to face off against our own challenges. It takes that ability to get to that place to where we start to learn how to utilize what we have. It's when we're tired, when we're fed up with what other people say about us. It's when we pick up ourselves and we say we can do it on our own. And it's inside of ourselves that we get to that level where it happens. It's when we are willing to no longer be okay with anything less than ourselves. It's when we focus to that place where, if these people are not for me, then I'm going to continue anyways. It's when we're at that level where we give ourselves that kind of permission to, be who we are on the inside. It's when we get beyond those kinds of challenges. You know, it's not going to happen for you until you want it for yourself. It's not going to happen for you until you really sit down with who you are on the inside. And I'm telling you, it's inside of your mentality. It's inside of your ability for you to be yourself. It's inside of your ability for you to go through your challenges. It's inside of your ability to focus through the things that nobody else can do for you, that they start working. It's when you sit down inside of yourself and everything is not working in your favor, when everything is asking you the questions, it's asking you if it's possible for you to get to the pages where nobody else is willing to go, to work through the things that nobody else can. It's when you're willing to do that things start working. It's when you want it so bad that you're willing to give it away just so that you could help other people. It's when you sit down with yourself. It's not when it's on somebody else. It's not when somebody else is doing it for you that you achieve it. It's not when your challenges start to work through you that you start to have other people believe. It's when they believe in themselves. It's when they see it for themselves, when they ask themselves the question, when they see the daily, the weekly, the monthly grind. It's inside of that level of focus that it starts to happen. It's in that level of ability that we start to overcome our challenges. Because each of us have challenge. Each of us have things to work through. Each of us has things that, when we ask ourselves the questions, do we truly get through our challenges? We see the ability inside of ourselves to focus past our challenges. And it's at a place where your attention lays. It's where are you putting your attention in the day? What are the things that are you giving your attention to? What are the places that you focus on? What are the places that you focus through? As Wikipedia says, it's that kind of challenge. Like it's sitting down and thinking about what you want to become. It's thinking about where you want to go. It's the ability for you to be yourself, right? So how do we become who we are on the inside unless we're able to truly be who we are? How do we get to the point where we start to focus on the inwards path? Like when do we start to focus on the ability inside of ourselves to go beyond the challenges? When do we start to become a light source from within who we are? And each of us have those types of challenges to where the level of focus inside becomes a reflection outwards. And so a lot of people see from our level of challenge, they see from our mentality, they see from our ability, and what we put in our systems matters too. What kind of attention do you give to your whole being? Do you sit down and study yourself? Do you put yourself in a place where you focus through the challenges that are in front of you? Or do you let the challenges in front of you be greater than you are? And so each of us have that place to focus past our challenges. We have those kind of challenges so that we can make it through them. And without them, we wouldn't be able to learn. Without them, we wouldn't be able to be students in our lives. We wouldn't be able to have the ability to overcome and to see the lessons in the challenges. And so it's when we start to embrace the challenges, it's when we start to embrace the universe, we start to embrace the things that the universe brings our way. It's when we see everything as equations, see everything as the universe working in your favor. Einstein recognized this. He recognized that when we allow the universe to become our friends, when we allow the universe to work in our favor, it's not always going to be the page that you see right now. It's not always going to be the page that you're on at this minute. It's never going to be exactly perfect because it's meant to be magnificent. It's meant to be amazing. It's meant to be something so great that you're surprised at the results are a reflection outwards of your mentality. I think of a friend, and she had locked her keys in her car. She had left the keys inside the ignition. And we were going to go open the car. And I explained that, it's just figuring out the equation. It's like this universe is mathematics, and it's a place in which we live. It's a place in which we face off against challenges, So are we able to utilize those challenges to the place where we can see the equation before we even start facing off against it, And it's only on that page where we open it up that we feel yes. Can we feel the yes before the challenge? Can we feel the yes before the pages happen, before the chapter opens? Can we allow the universe to let our focus, our attention on the positivity? Can we start to see the universal laws at work? Can we start to see the energy in motion? Can we allow that energy to flow in such a way that we have the ability to utilize it? And when we do that, we feel that those things start to happen. They start to really work in our lives. The blessings really start to come your way. If you put yourself in a position where you accept the universe to be a blessing, if you can start to focus to the point where everything that happens in your being becomes a vibration, where other people see you as focused, they start to see you as that, and it starts to become executed as you, then the universe starts to use you as a friend. If you start to utilize the universe in such a way that you have the ability to use the gifts that you have, then the universe will utilize the gifts that you have. It doesn't work the other way around. It works with your mentality. It works with your ability for you to be yourself. And so when you listen to positivity, you start to see these people's stories, you start to see these people's challenges start to become overcome. Recognize that it's because they're becoming a friend with the process. They're becoming a friend with the equation. They're becoming a friend with the ability to put their attention into a place where the universe can start to become your friend. Because this universe has the ability to yield its riches. It has the ability to bless you. And it's inside of those blessings that lay manifestation. It's inside of that vibration. It's inside of where you give your attention to. And so what is it that you give your attention to every day? What is it that you put yourself in that place? What is it that you do every day that makes you you? And are you able to do more of that? Are you able to find a way for that to create the being and the reflection outwards that others would pay you to be yourself? That's what I strive to do. That's what I want you to see, that you can focus into your dreams. You can focus into your being. You can focus into your manifestation. You can focus into your level of understanding. And it's when you give yourself that place where, you want to be healthy. It's kind of interesting. There's a whole bunch of different places. There's a whole bunch of different diets. But it's up to you to want to put your energy into it. If you want to be strong and you want to work out and you want to have muscle, you got to go to the gym to be able to do it. If you want to be successful, then you got to put yourself in a mindset where you already are there. And so we give ourselves that ability on a daily basis to find that place where success becomes a reflection. When I was in the sales and I was working for Chrysler and I was selling cars, I remember not comparing yourself to anybody else, because your mentality is what matters. Your ability to sit down with yourself and to continue when other people would say, hey, follow this routine, and you follow your own. Nobody can be challenged unless they allow themselves to be. It's inside of your mind that you free yourself. It's inside of your ability to be who you are that you focus past your challenges. It's when you're willing to use your gifts that your reflection radiates outwards. And it's inside of you where it asks you the question if you can do that. It's inside of you that asks you if you have the ability. It's inside of you who's going to be sitting down with yourself for hours and hours and hours on end. As Steve Jobs said, for you to do something well, you have to do it for so many hours that it would be considered insane. That is a true quote. It is a reflection of our own level of understanding that the results happen. It is a reflection of our being that the manifestation, anything that you want to create, can come possible in your mind. And then if the reflection is your level of focus, it can happen. Think about the technology that we talked through today. At a certain time, that wasn't considered possible. It's because a person focused to the point where it became possible that we're able to do the things that we're able to do today. We're able to use the tools that we have today. We're able to use the mentality that we have today. And it's inside of ourselves that we find that place is possible. It's when you study yourself, it's when you sit down inside of yourself, it's when you start to open the part of your mind where your attention lays, where your mind becomes a teacher, it becomes a student, your breath becomes simplicity. It's inside of oneself that the mastery starts to happen. You know, sometimes we feel like we have to be speeded up just so that we could slow down. How about if we slow down as things are getting faster? How about we put ourselves in a place where we focus through the challenges, where we put our attention is in our lives, where our level of study is there for us, our level of being is there. You know, it's so interesting. I see the people who visit these videos and, you know, the ones that watch them at later dates. I see people who are out there looking for a way, and they're looking for the ability. It's inside that the ability already lays. It's inside that the challenges start to become overcome. It's inside that the level of focus, the level of manifestation, the level of being inside of you radiates light outwards. And it's not for somebody else to do for you. It's not their place to pick you up. It's your own to start to pick yourself up inside of your mentality. It's for you to start to ask yourself the question, is it motivation? Is it meditation? Is it inspiration? Is this what I'm asking myself every day? And that's what I did when I was at my low. When I was kicked to the ground. When I was asked, is this what you really got inside? Is this what you really want to become? Is this, you know, and I started to bypass the challenges that we have going on inside. I started to focus to the point where what we utilize inside becomes a reflection outwards. And it's inside of you that it's going to happen. It's inside of you that it takes your mentality to open up your ability to study yourself. And it's inside of oneself that the mind opens up. It's where you put your attention to study your knowledge. You know, how do you sit down with yourself? Where do you sit down? You know, some of us sit down with books. Some of us sit down with videos. Some of us sit down with teachers, instructors. You know, where do you open your mind? What is it that you put your mind in? What is it that you put your mind into? And how do you utilize it? How do you bypass those kinds of challenges? You know, each of us is going to have challenge. Each of us is going to have to work through our own challenges, because each of us is going to have a different mentality. Each of us is going to have different abilities. Each of us is going to have a different place inside of who we are. It's not always going to be perfect. It's not always going to be the way that you're looking for it to happen. And so, are we able to put ourselves in a place where we use our ability? You know, I think of people like Elon Musk, who continued, even when things were failing, He said, I'm going to do it, or I'm going to find a way. This is the mentality to overcome one's challenges. It's the ability for you to be who you already are, and it's inside of you that the ability opens itself up. It's inside of you that you pick yourself up. It's not always when you see it in front of you that it happens. It's only inside of your focus that you can achieve it. It's inside of your ability to give your attention to it, to put your whole being down, to get to the level where the knowledge inside becomes sufficient, where the student becomes a student with the teacher inside. When do we give ourselves that place? At what point does that place inside have a level of understanding? When do the lessons that you go through, you can tell that a person truly meditates when they sit down and they look past the challenges.
I'm going to need to use the printer.
When they look past the things that they go through.
I'm going to use the printer. I'm going to turn you off.
And so I do hope that you have a blessed